Trump and Clinton get big Super Tuesday boosts, other candidates also find reason to celebrate. A critical pro-life case. The Supreme Court hears arguments about Texas abortion clinic regulations. House Speaker Paul Ryan on key issues facing our country.
This is what the human center of the pro-life movement's all about, is making sure that women know that they have better choices, better options.
See our exclusive interview. And burn the check. Pope Francis rejects what he calls blood money. Those stories and more on EWTN News Nightly for Wednesday, March 2nd, 2016.
I ask you to prayerfully consider our coming together.
Texas Senator Ted Cruz imploring fellow Republicans to join him in stopping Donald Trump's continuing rise in the race for the White House. We're also tracking a pivotal pro-life case before the U.S. Supreme Court tonight. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Brian Patrick. We begin with Super Tuesday results and reaction. Jason Calvi reports from Alabama. But first, Lauren Ashburn at our political desk here in D.C.
Brian, it was a big night for Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. Not so good news from Ben Carson, who says he doesn't see a way forward.
Thank you very much, everybody.
For Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton's Super Tuesday lived up to its name.
What a Super Tuesday!
Both the Democratic and Republican frontrunners came out looking stronger than ever. Clinton won 7 states, including the biggest prizes, Texas and Georgia. She was helped by overwhelming support among African-American voters.
Now this campaign moves forward to the Crescent City, the Motor City, and beyond.
Senator Bernie Sanders won 4 contests and says he is far from out of the race.
This campaign is not just about electing a president, it is about transforming America.
Next president of the United States, Donald Trump.
For Republicans, Super Tuesday cemented that Donald Trump is far and away the favorite.
I feel awfully good.
While Trump won most contests, Ted Cruz won his home state of Texas, nearby Oklahoma, and Alaska. Marco Rubio only won in Minnesota.
The pundits say we're underdogs. I'll accept that. This is a country of underdogs, but we will win.
We're still calculating the final delegate counts, but we know Trump leads the overall race with 316 delegates, followed by Cruz, Rubio, Kasich, and Carson. Hillary Clinton is nearly halfway to clinching the Democratic presidential nomination. Her total delegate count is at least 1,038. Sanders at least 410. In the southern states, it was a strong finish for Clinton and Trump. Trump trounced Rubio and Cruz. EWTN's Jason Calvi is on the campaign trail at EWTN in Alabama. Jason, good to see you.
Good to see you too, Lauren. I want to let you know that the exit polls show that Donald Trump won about 40% of the born-again Christian vote. Today, Catholics and Protestants come together to talk Bible and politics. Donald Trump won 43% in this Bible Belt state. Here at the Catholic Cathedral in Birmingham, Catholic voter Philip Edens tells us why.
They've been promised time and time again that something is going to be different, and it's the same thing over and over with the same people. And so they figure, why not take a chance on some guy who is an outsider and see what happens.
EWTN's Father Mitch Pacwa, Protestant Bishop Jim Lowe, and more than 20 other ministers are members of the Gatekeepers Association of Alabama. They come together for fun, with the serious mission of educating their flocks on biblical principles to help them vote. They say, look at the characters of people running for office.
The commandments, human virtue.
Right, what's it like, the gifts of the Spirit? We all could do that.
And trying to be filled with God's wisdom, a wisdom which is based on the fear of the Lord as the beginning of wisdom.
The gatekeepers have already held a voter forum.
We're learning from each other, you know, as the scripture says, an iron sharpens iron.
Each pastor in the group rated each of the candidates. They then averaged the tally and shared that with voters here in Alabama. Lauren?
Jason, what else are you learning from the exit polls in Alabama?
Well, across the board on Super Tuesday, 9 out of 10 Republican voters say they're dissatisfied with Washington. And in 6 of the southern states, the majority of voters supported Trump's ban on Muslims entering the country.
Jason Calvi reporting from Birmingham, Alabama. Thank you, Jason. After winning several states last night, Donald Trump renewed his support for Planned Parenthood, admitting it's not a perfect conservative view.
I'm just doing what's right. Look, Planned Parenthood has done very good work for millions of women. And I'll say it, and I know a lot of the so-called conservatives, they say that's really, because I'm a conservative, but I'm a common sense conservative. But millions of women have been helped by Planned Parenthood. But we're not going to allow and we're not going to fund as long as you have the abortion going on at Planned Parenthood. And we understand that, and I've said it loud and clear. And we'll see what happens. But Planned Parenthood, millions of people, and I've had thousands of letters from women that have been helped. And this wasn't a setup, this was people writing letters. I'm going to be really good for women. I'm going to be good for women's health issues. It's very important to me.
We'll be back later in the show, Brian, with our political discussion. The next big voting day is March 15th, when Marco Rubio's home state of Florida goes to the polls.
Thank you, Lauren. And as Donald Trump talks up the nation's largest abortion provider, the Supreme Court takes up the most important abortion case in 2 decades. It's the first high-profile issue to be heard since Justice Antonin Scalia's death last month. Wyatt Goolsby, who is inside the court this morning, covers the case for us tonight. Wyatt?
Brian, the now 8 justices had plenty of questions on both sides during today's oral arguments. The case revolves around a Texas law that regulates abortion clinics, and what they decide here could very well either uphold or reverse state abortion laws across the country.
They can feel it in there, y'all.
It's being called the biggest abortion case in nearly 25 years, and it's a divisive one. On one side is Whole Woman's Health, which runs multiple abortion clinics in Texas. They're fighting back against a state law passed in 2013. That law had 2 new restrictions. Number 1, doctors performing abortions must have admitting privileges at local hospitals. Number 2, abortion clinics must upgrade their facilities to hospital-like standards. Whole Woman's Health contends the law has directly led to the closing of 20 abortion clinics in Texas.
This law is cruel and it is harsh, and it does nothing to advance medical health for women.
But supporters of the law argue that raising the standards of abortion clinics will help protect women's health.
Texas cares about our women. That is what this is all about. Women's health and quality of care for whatever kind of decision they choose to make.
Texas lawmakers supporting the state bill also hope to prevent illegal abortion practices like the Kermit Gosnell case.
Shoddy abortion clinics still exist.
Pro-life advocates like Nona Ellington support the Texas law. She says she was pressured into an abortion when she was 15 years old. In the decades since, she has reported numerous health issues related to the procedure.
Whether it's an abortion clinic, an ambulatory surgical center, a hospital, women's health needs to be protected. This is a very dangerous procedure.
Now, this court has been starkly divided on the issue of abortion in the past, and it appeared that way inside the courthouse today. And it looks like they will continue to discuss this. If the case ends up being split 4-4, that means that the Texas law would remain in place. We're expecting a decision by late June. And that's what's happening inside the Supreme Court. Now, for more on what's going on the outside and the reaction, I'm joined by Catherine Szeltner with that. Catherine?
Right, where we're standing was filled with activists just a few hours ago. On these steps, energized crowds use signs and chants so their message could be heard loud and clear. Activists on both sides of the abortion argument came ready to share their message this morning.
The legislation that we are here supporting today really is common sense legislation. If abortion is a surgical procedure, then treat abortion centers like surgical centers.
We're here to oppose trap laws, which make unnecessary burdens on abortion providers.
Students for Life organized the pro-life rally on the High Court steps. The group says protecting women's health should be an issue all women get behind.
The other side's out here because they know if this bill stands, bills like this will pass in states across the country, and abortion facilities will lose money.
Speaker after speaker took to the rally's mic, including the only black Republican senator.
We can defend women's health and defend the unborn. I hope that the Supreme Court will hear the arguments and side with us, period.
The pro-life crowd also included a filmmaker who interviewed abortionist Dr. Kermit Gosnell and the women who went to him looking for quality health care.
They left with very deep emotional and physical scars that they will carry their entire lives. And all those women are still, most of them are still pro-choice today, but they are for these regulations.
In between the speeches and cheers, the pro-life rally broke into prayer and song. There are no official crowd size numbers, but it seemed the pro-lifers were outnumbered by abortion supporters. Brian.
Thank you, Catherine Szeltner and Wyatt Goolsby. Meanwhile, a congressional investigation of Planned Parenthood ramps up. The House Select Panel on Infant Lives holds its first hearing today. That panel created to investigate allegations Planned Parenthood profits from the sale of aborted baby parts. Maryland Representative Andy Harris is a member of the panel, joining us from Capitol Hill. Representative Harris, as a practicing physician and researcher, you are very familiar with births. You've assisted in many of them. What do you bring, what unique insight do you bring to this investigation?
Well, again, having dealt not only with births but with medical research, I bring the insight of what it is to do ethical medical research involving humans and how important it is to be ethical when you do that.
Now, during the hearing today, you talked about this form that mothers sign and questioned it, saying it overpromises. Can you explain the form and why you say that?
Absolutely. You know, the women who are donating these baby body parts basically are asked to sign a consent form that says right on it that these tissues or blood have been used to find a cure for diseases like Alzheimer's, cancers, diseases for which there has never been fetal tissue which has cured any of these diseases. So it just way overpromises. And honestly, if you were trying to convince someone to donate tissue, you'd say, look, you know, these tissues have real uses that have been proven, whereas this just isn't true in this case.
This has become a highly politicized issue. Some say this committee is only politics. What is the true mission of this panel?
Well, today's hearing, we concentrated on the bioethics, and we got amazing agreement between some of the majority and minority witnesses that there is really substandard bioethics going on when we're dealing with the acquisition and sale of these baby body parts. And there's no other way to state it. We had agreement that these forms are deceptive. The IRBs may be being deceived in providing the institutional overview, and this just begs for more investigation.
Well, thank you for your unique insight, Representative Andy Harris of Maryland. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Coming up, the Pope rebukes those who make money by exploiting others, then try to give some of it to the church. And more fallout from Super Tuesday. Our political guests discuss the future of the presidential race.
E questa offerta è frutto del sangue di tanta gente sfruttata, maltrattata, schiavizzata.
Thanks for joining us for EWTN News Nightly. I'm Brian Patrick, and a passionate Pope Francis warns we cannot cover up sin with gestures of sacrifice. Alan Holdren, Rome Bureau Chief for EWTN's Catholic News Agency, joins us with more on today's general audience. Alan, what was the Holy Father talking about with such passion?
Well, Brian, you know how the Holy Father gets fired up about speaking about the workplace and dignity of workers. He was saying that if church benefactors receive the money that they give to the church by way of exploitation, enslavement, abuse of workers, he said the church doesn't need that money. He actually said that they should take the checks back and burn them. And he said that the church and the people of God don't need dirty money.
That's very harsh language from a Pope of mercy. What is his point here?
Well, Brian, he continued his thought to say also that the church, the people need to have hearts that are open to God's mercy. He was speaking about God's fatherly correction, the fact that he reaches out to every person and offers his love and forgiveness. He said he offers it to everyone. And then he went on to speak about the Bible, the prophet Isaiah, who says in the Bible that all people should help, should seek justice, should seek peace, should help the oppressed. And he added in there that they should also think to the people, the refugees who disembark on the shores of Europe and come here with nowhere to go. He was saying that God's mercy is open to everyone.
And he certainly got our attention. Alan Holdren joining us from Rome. Thank you, Alan.
Thank you, Brian.
Cardinal George Pell agrees to meet with clergy sex abuse victims from his native Australia. Pell, who now leads financial reform for the Vatican, says he could meet with them tomorrow morning. An Australian commission is questioning Pell via video conference about abuse cases in the 1970s in the dioceses where he served. Cardinal Pell wants to meet with survivors in a private pastoral setting without lawyers or the media. They have been pushing for a more open group meeting. Let's go back now to Lauren Ashburn at our political desk. Lauren?
Well, Brian, former presidential candidate Chris Christie is coming under fire. 6 New Jersey newspapers are calling on Christie to step down as governor. The Gannett-owned newspapers say they're fed up with his refusal to answer questions. They also claim he spent too much time away from New Jersey while running for president and campaigning for Donald Trump. Joining us now, Niall Stanage. He's an associate editor at The Hill, and Melinda Henneberger, editor-in-chief at Roll Call. Welcome to both of you. Thanks. It was a big night last night, Super Tuesday. Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton dominated as was expected. Melinda, were there any surprises?
One of the things that surprised me most, and that we're showing in Roll Call tomorrow in a big double truck graphic, is how close the races were on the Republican side. If you look at the dots of different candidates, Trump and whoever was trailing him, in some cases Cruz, in some cases Rubio, all the dots are just like this, close, almost overlapping. Whereas on the Democratic side, it looks like a bell curve, or like I said, like a Harry Potter sorting hat, where except in Massachusetts, the candidates were mostly very far apart.
So what does that mean for Rubio and Cruz, Niall? What is their path forward? What is Sanders' path forward?
I think for Rubio and Cruz, so much comes down to Florida. This is a winner-take-all state. Votes on March 15th. Donald Trump has a lead of approximately 100 delegates over Ted Cruz. Florida on its own is 99 delegates. If Donald Trump wins that, the path forward for either Cruz or Rubio, I think, is very difficult. Obviously, Marco Rubio's home state, so a loss there would also be devastating.
And the same would be true for Bernie Sanders? I mean, are we getting to the point where the path is closed?
One of our writers said last night that going forward, this Democratic race is going to have all the drama of a 6th grade Christmas pageant. Not much tension.
I've sat through many of those. There is not a lot of drama there. Sometimes some pain. Okay, so one of the other things we want to talk about are religious leaders and their role in this. 92% of people who went to church weekly, go to church weekly in Alabama, voted for Hillary Clinton. Melinda, is the religious right dead in the conservative movement?
As a political force, we certainly don't see any signs that it's operative in this election. I mean, evangelicals who go to the polls, even those who say they vote on values, that it's very important to me that the candidates share my values, don't vote that way when they vote for Donald Trump, especially. So I say, Catholic voters have been doing that for years. Catholic voters look they're not discernible from others. So I say to evangelicals, welcome to my world.
Right, it's true. And Niall, before we go, I interviewed Speaker Ryan yesterday. We'll have more of my interview with him later. But he was someone you mentioned in your piece today in The Hill, saying that that it's going to be very tough for him to move the needle when it comes to a candidate.
Yes, as it is for all Republican leaders in Washington. I mean, these are leaders who are, by and large, adamantly opposed to Donald Trump's candidacy. The grassroots of the Republican Party isn't. Otherwise, Donald Trump wouldn't be running away with this. And so that makes it difficult to glean the moral authority as a Paul Ryan or Mitch McConnell to try to stop him.
Thank you very much for joining us. Niall Stanage from The Hill, Melinda Henneberger from Roll Call. Up next, my exclusive interview with Paul Ryan.
Good Catholics can disagree on how to implement these principles.
How his Catholic faith influenced his job as Speaker of the House. And singing for Francis, Placido Domingo pays tribute to the Pope. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm Lauren Ashburn. Speaker of the House Paul Ryan tells me he is deeply influenced by his Catholic faith. I had the chance to sit down and talk to him about a wide range of issues facing the nation, including immigration. President Obama instructed immigration authorities to target dangerous, undocumented immigrants rather than law-abiding, undocumented parents of U.S. citizens. If this hadn't been done by executive order, would you have supported it?
Well, I think that depends on the context of the rest of what would be in a bill. I support securing the border first and foremost and overhauling our immigration system, which is broken. But that's not the issue. The issue isn't the policy that you reference. The issue is who writes laws under the Constitution. Is it Article 1 or Article 2? The executive branch or the legislative branch? The legislative branch writes our laws. The president, in this case, is attempting to write laws unilaterally. He's the president. He doesn't write laws. So take the issue you're talking about, immigration or any other issue, take that out. The fact is you have an executive trying to write laws, and that is a violation of the separation of powers.
Right, but what I was trying to get at here was families
Right.
and being Christian and
Sure.
not going after parents that you're going to have to.
But we also have the rule of law. We also have to secure our borders. We also have a broken immigration system that needs fixing. So I would answer your question in the context of immigration reform. We should be doing things like securing the border and restoring the rule of law. That's extremely important. And I think as Catholics who are exercising our prudential judgment in public life, being for securing the border and having the rule of law applied in our immigration system is perfectly consistent with Catholic social teaching.
So what do you say to Catholic theologians who say that you're distorting Catholic social doctrine to fit your own political agenda?
I say, like what I say to anybody from the left and the right, we are exercising prudential judgment. Good Catholics can disagree on how to implement these principles. That we're a big church, and it's perfectly fine for lay Catholics to exercise their own prudential judgment on how they act on these principles.
Okay, let's move on to money. Do you predict that under your leadership that the House will be able to pass 12 appropriation bills in 2016 in regular order?
So we intend to bring up our appropriation bills. What we don't know is whether or not Harry Reid is going to filibuster these bills going over to the Senate like he has in the past number of years. I do believe that we have a good chance of getting some of these bills passed. But as far as the power of the purse is concerned here in the House, it is our goal to move our appropriation bills separately. Where the process ends at the end of the day, given that we haven't had a complete appropriations process since 1994,
it's a long time.
I don't know the answer to that question,
Right.
but I know that we're gonna make the effort.
Now on to abortion.
This week we're going to have our first hearing on bioethics. So the select panel is beginning its work, and we're very proud of what they're going to be doing, because this is something that we've never had a hearing in Congress ever about bioethics and about dealing with the unborn. So we think we can do a great service to public education on these issues. As you know, I'm pro-life, and what I'm excited about is seeing young people joining the pro-life cause.
I loved what you said in a speech to the Susan B. Anthony list. We need to work with people who consider themselves pro-choice.
That's right, that's right.
Because our task isn't to purge our ranks,
That's
it's
right.
to grow them.
That's right. My favorite charity that I give every single year are pregnancy crisis centers. They're on the front lines of making sure that women in very difficult moments are given options, are given choices, are given compassion. I do think that this is where we should go. This is what the human center of the pro-life movement is all about, is making sure that women know that they have better choices, better options.
Speaker Ryan also says that he will continue to defend Republican principles. Back to you, Brian.
All right, thank you, Lauren. In other news, debris washing up in Mozambique is tentatively identified as a part from the same type of plane as the missing Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. A U.S. official cites experts close to that investigation. The debris appears to be part of a horizontal stabilizer of a Boeing 777. MH370, which disappeared 2 years ago with 239 people aboard, is the only known missing 777. Mozambique's National Director of Civil Aviation dismisses that report. He says no part of the missing plane has been found. NASA astronaut Scott Kelly is back on Earth after an unprecedented year in space. He landed today in Kazakhstan with a Russian cosmonaut who shared his entire journey. Kelly emerged from the Russian Soyuz capsule giving a thumbs up, chatting with doctors and reporters. This ends a mission aboard the International Space Station that's deemed a stepping stone to Mars. The national championship Alabama Crimson Tide football team honored at the White House today. The president welcomed Nick Saban and his team in the East Room this afternoon. The Tide has won 4 national championships under Saban, who is a member of St. Francis Assisi University Parish. The new Catholic Student Center on campus bears Saban's name. Until tomorrow, for the EWTN News Nightly team, I'm Brian Patrick. We say goodnight with Spanish tenor Placido Domingo, singing with a group of Spaniards after meeting Pope Francis at today's general audience.
Francisco primero, te quiere el mundo entero. A ver, Francisco primero, te quiere el mundo entero. Ven otra vez. Francisco primero.